Welcome back to our ever-broadening audio section here at Four Leaf Publishing. This is Robert Kugler, and I'm coming back with you for a handful of new questions from members of our newsletter community. If this is news to you, I do a newsletter twice a month where I share with my readers information and background and giveaways from my own collection. And also giveaway groups for free books and sometimes music and audiobooks, things like that, that are all over the world. And I always try to share another independent author in the community, share their work, which they're often giving away free. And it's turned into a really fun community of about 6,000 of us now from all over the world. And if you're not a member of that, please head over to robertkuglerbooks.com, and on the contact page you'll find a form to fill out to join us. Otherwise, you can also just email me anytime, whether it's a question, concern, or otherwise, to robert@robertkuglerbooks.com. I like very much the influx of new questions I've gotten since I did the first audio a few weeks ago, and thank you all for your feedback on that. But I think I've got a nice little queue of questions, but keep them coming. I'll probably try to do this, maybe not every newsletter, but periodically throughout the year when I get a chance, and when I have my second born to help me get the file ready for YouTube, which is something they excel at in a much greater area of range than I have. So, but without further ado, let's dive into. I've got 4 questions today. The first is from Adriana in Moldova. Well, welcome, Moldova. We haven't done a Who's the Furthest Away newsletter member in a very long time, but I'm sure Adriana would be up there. That's a long distance from where I am on the East Coast of the United States. Adriana writes, I want to write a novel, but I don't know what to do. What should I do? Well, I do get this question quite a bit, and Four Leaf Publishing actually works in a more formal way with how authors periodically. We don't take on everyone, but periodically, we'll work on helping someone get their book to market. Sometimes they just need formatting or things like that. But what Adriana's question really focuses on is I want to write a novel, but I don't know where to start. Honestly, my advice to any author who asks me that is really just sit down and start a story. Think about a place where you want a character that strikes you. A lot of people get their start with fan fiction. Young authors in particular really get a good start there. That's actually not a bad way to sort of flex your muscles about being a creative person in general. And I would certainly recommend that. If there's a series that you really like, think about, as an exercise, read the last chapter of a book you really love and write the next chapter, like what happens next. That's a good exercise as well. But really, it's just about trying to find, I really do believe that everybody has at least one great novel in them, and the world really needs those novels. So Adriana and anyone else who's struggling with that same question, really just start writing it. Find a group of people if you can. There's lots of good writing communities online where you can find people to be test readers and so forth. And the thing I do tell people, and I do go into greater detail in this on another audio where I spoke to a group of aspiring authors earlier in the year, where we talk about the awful clock of awesome awfulness, which is basically every writer starts off with a head of steam, and about halfway through that chapter, a lot of them, we all lose faith, we all lose focus, we all start doubting ourselves, and just keep kind of pushing through that. And then, look at it later. Give yourself some time to digest what you've done before you go back. So many authors that I've talked to, they say, once I got past I have to immediately make everything perfect, that's when you really started making progress and piling up word count and getting yourself closer to a story that has a good beginning, middle, and an end. But honestly, Adriana, just start writing. And if you don't have the idea, take a series you like, take a movie you like, and write like a 1-chapter sequel, or take a character from that and write a short story about that. And that's a really good way to kind of get those muscles flexed, because being a writer is really like being any other kind of professional, or I think the analogy I like to use is an athlete. Like if you want to get better at soccer, you go train in soccer, and you drills in soccer, and you play soccer scrimmages, and you play soccer games. And writing is the same kind of thing. It's a muscle. You have to exercise it a little bit every day. My goal is generally 500 words a day. And if I get in a good groove, then 500 is very easy. And if there's days that I can't get anything but 500 done, at least I feel like I've gotten something done. So I know it doesn't sound like a silver magic bullet here, but if you want to try to write a novel, just start writing. And don't delete, just keep going and plugging through, because the point of the first draft of anything is not to get it perfect, it's to get it completed. Nobody ever published a first draft of anything. But thank you for that question, Adriana, and hope things are good in Moldova. Pete, I get this question a lot too, but most recently Pete he just says Utah, so I don't know where in Utah, but Pete wonders if my novels will ever be in audio form. I don't have plans for that right now, mostly because as an independent publisher, honestly, it would just cost me more than I would make from it. We did an experiment a few years ago, and there actually are on this YouTube channel. I believe it's the first 2 chapters of The Last Good Day that I read just myself on YouTube once. So that's out there. And at one point we'd considered like doing the whole book, and it just, the terms of time it was taking and you know the return on the investment in that regard just wasn't really there, so we didn't really continue with it. For me to do it at home, as an independent publisher and author, I like to do things myself. It would just cost me too much right now to invest in the equipment to really make an audiobook sound perfect. And then it costs money to get it onto the different platforms. So I won't say never, but I would say right now, the return on the investment's not there for me, and I feel badly about it, because I get this from a lot of people who are like, I really love your book, and I'm on the train for 3 hours a day. I like your writing, but I'm in the car for big commutes. Like, most of my reading time is audio, but now you have these Q&As, so maybe that's a good stopgap until the market for that equipment and the time involved and the investment in making the audiobooks myself or hiring someone else to do them would be more appropriate. But so at this point, Pete, I'm sorry to say that probably not anytime soon. It's just too expensive for me to do it right, and if I'm going to do that, I would really want to make sure that it was done properly. So we'll see if the next novel becomes a international bestseller, and I end up with a Netflix or an HBO deal to make a Avery and Angela TV series, then yeah, by that point we'll definitely have the resources for that. But that's, if wishes were horses, then, as my grandmother would say, beggars would ride. But good question. I appreciate that, Pete. Honestly, a lot of my family would like that. I hear that from them all out. I'd love to read your books, but I only do audio. So I really wish I could kind of pull that off right now. So Marjorie from San Francisco, love San Francisco. Fun fact, the very first words that became The Last Good Day were written in a park on a sunny afternoon in San Francisco, California. I was on a trip, business trip for my wife, and I tagged along and had a delightful time. And that's where the first words of that series were written. She asks, what kind of teaching do I do? Yeah, I do talk about teaching a lot. So I do 2 kinds of teaching, really. I teach, when I work with authors through 4-Leaf Publishing, one of the things I offer is, if you want to learn how to format while I format your book, I'll help you learn how to do that so you don't have to hire someone like me again. So any part of the publishing process, if you engage 4-Leaf Publishing in that, things like formatting, things like cover art, things like setting up your KDP and draft to digital seller accounts, things like that. Like, if those aren't things that are coming naturally to a lot of authors, we can do them for them, but we also offer, like, listen, I'll teach you how to do it so you don't have to hire me in the future. So I do that kind of teaching. And we do a lot of work on writing and craft and things like that too. But I also I teach high school English. I've got a career doing that as well, and I teach Lang Lit, which is an IB class, and I also teach photojournalism, and I'll be teaching some 9th graders this year as well. So I teach at a school district here in Virginia. And it's a lot of fun. I started my career in education. I took a long break off in the middle to be a stay-at-home dad and a bartender. And then actually after COVID, I kind of dipped my toe back into the world of public school teaching, and I've really enjoyed it. So I get a lot of that. I learn a lot from the kids every day. And reading their writing really helps me, as I mentioned to Adriana's question, that flexible muscle of reading and editing and writing. I definitely get a lot of practice doing that. So we will see. the final question for today. This one's gone a little quick, but that's okay. Zena from Albany writes, "Who is this Freddy Pinkerton you keep mentioning?" Okay. Yes, the Freddy Pinkerton is the lead character in the novel that I am desperately trying to finish, but I've really been working on his story for about 8 years. His was the story that I started working on after The Last Good Day, before I realized that I wanted to make The Last Good Day part of an Avery and Angela series. Originally, it was just a standalone book, and I'd written about a half to two-thirds of the Freddy Pinkerton story, probably closer to half, and it's still not done. I'm probably 20 to 25% away from being at the end page of that story. So I'm close, but the time has been more difficult to come by in the last couple of years. So I'm really hoping, I had hoped against hope that I might have it done by the end of this summer. I think that's probably optimistic, but we'll see. I've got a 2-week kind of writing sprint coming up in the next few weeks when my kids will be back at college and my wife has to go away for work for a few weeks. So it'll just be me and the dog. So there's a definite chance that I can get some work done there. But Freddy Pinkerton's story is a unique one. He's a 20-something living in North Jersey. And he's someone so much cooler online. He has a sort of an alter ego online. Nothing sinister, it's just he's a little shy about himself, so he basically created somebody more interesting to be online. And let's just say that mayhem ensues as a result of that person he's created. I'll leave it there for the time being. I don't want to spoil too much there, but I will be hopefully looking for beta readers in the coming weeks for that. If not, hopefully by the end of the year. If you're new to my newsletter, beta teams are basically a group of people that volunteer to read the book for free before, like before the final edit, to give me feedback on it. And most of my best beta readers either come from my life in the real world or from my newsletter. We get a lot of really good perspectives on that, because generally the people on an author's newsletter are people who like to read and like to talk about reading. So if that's of interest to you, I will be putting out a call for that, I hope, this year. To be reading that. It's sort of it's not a YA book. It's not an Avery and Angela book. It's definitely not as dark as the Geography of Home. It's actually probably closer to a rom-com, if you can believe that. And yeah, I know I'm genre mixing a little bit, but I tell writers and I tell myself, you got to write what's on your heart to write. And this story, and as Freddy Pinkerton himself, is very much hoping I can finally finish his story. So please keep the questions coming. I've got another group that I'll probably get to in the next month or two. But I love hearing from readers. Every time you write, I write back. If there's stuff you'd like to see in the newsletter, great. If you have other questions for this Q&A, please absolutely send them along. But for now, again, this is Robert Kugler from robertkuglerbooks.com and 4 Leaf Publishing, signing off, and have a great day, and as always, happy reading.